Greetings travellers, and welcome to part 2 of this retro video game arcade machine build tutorial. In part 1 we covered where we're going to place our cabinet in our base and where the screen will be. You can find a link to part 1 in the description below. And our next step is to build what we're actually going to see on the screen itself. I'd recommend googling something like 80s classic arcade screenshots. I base most of the machines in my arcade on my favourites back in the day. Researching these screenshots is a really good way to see how they used to use 2D graphics to create the illusion of 3D. And in this vid, we're going to attempt to create a fighting game in the spirit of something like Street Fighter 2. I previously used the Sentinel Walker statues, but this time I'm going to use the new Wonder Projector. But just keep in mind that as of this video, the projections that the Wonder's projector projects are not visible to other players if they visit your base. With that said, let's start by putting the background in for the display. As you can see, I moved that locker back a little bit, and now I'm going to mount a wall light. So when I mount a poster on top of it, it'll provide some backlighting. A quick check with the wall that we established in part 1, just to make sure that the light is hidden, and now we can select our poster. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the posters and the elements on them. And you can even use parts of posters by tilting them on their X or Y axes. To give my Gek fighters something to stand on, I'm going to scale down a small alloy wall using the scale glitch. I briefly described how to do the scale glitch in part 1, plus I'll leave a link to a tutorial video I did in the description below. To give enough space for my holograms to stand on, I'll have to bring that alloy wall forward, so I'll just bring forward the locker in the middle. I found I had to tweak the size of this alloy wall a couple of times. I had to make the locker that I was using in the scale glitch a little bit bigger, so it would fit nicely across the bottom. And again, we use this timber wall just to give us a bit of a guide to see if we've got everything in the right position. Save, save, save. Okay, so now we're ready to add our Wonder projectors so we can put our little combatants into our display. And again, it'll take a little bit of fiddling around with the position of the lockers just to get the Wonder projectors in the right spot. I found most of these guys on the NMS Coordinate Exchange on Reddit. Yeah, as you can see, the guy on the right is probably just a little bit too high, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just let him go. As I mentioned before, other players can't see these holo projections unfortunately, but it does make it kind of cool for this build because you can actually swap and switch around your players when you find new ones to change up the characters. So if you're happy with your display, now is the time to do the very important final save before you place the cabinet. Once we place it, there's no going back, so if we do make a mistake, at least we can reload or restore point. So with free placement off, we want to try and line it up here and here. So I should be able to go ahead and delete those wires in a minute. But first, let's put in our buttons and our joysticks. First, let's use the oscilloscope for the buttons. and I use the back side of a tube light for the 2 joysticks. And just one more oscilloscope in the middle to fill in the gap. A couple of illuminated signs on the top to show the game name. And a few cosmetic decals to follow the theme and the colour scheme of the game. And I use the electrical wiring for the energy bars for the fighters. If you double them up, the plugs at either end will disappear. So there we have our retro video game arcade machine. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you later. Hadouken!